Hello, everyone. I think I got on the fastest today. I'm using two computers. This is a real high-tech operation. I think I will be able to even pull up comments on the Facebook end. But now let me properly say hello to everyone. Welcome to our fourth show already of 2025. Once again, we'll be talking with Sam Ames about the rock cobbler, and Amanda Sheek is here to co-host again. Uh, and we'll talk a little bit about her being the most decorated rock cobbler champion, but also of this new accolade that just happened to drop in our laps today, I guess. So before we get to everyone online, a few pieces of housekeeping here. About a week and a half ago with Grizzly Cycles, we did a Send It ride, and the video from that ride will debut this Thursday. Also, we'll be more formally announcing our Send It in February. We'll be doing it the 23rd. Once again, we'll be doing it with Bike Dog Brewery out of Sacramento. Since that time, they've multiplied and now have 3 locations. So I don't know which location we'll be doing it out of, and we may be doing something special the night too. So please keep posted. So before I get into Sam, first I want to say hello to my co-host, Amanda. Hello, Amanda.
Hello.
Uh, well, yeah, I don't know if you've heard, but you are now in the Gravel Bike Hall of Fame.
You
How
don't
do you
say.
react to me telling you this news? Is it just shocking, or was this the right place? Or
Wildly. Yeah, I
uh-huh.
mean, it was confusing originally because when you read it, it sounds like Sheik got in. I'm still getting used to the last name, so yeah, thank you.
Well, I mean, you've been in this community a lot, and you're also on the board. So does it feel different now that you're actually, like, now that the announcements are made and everything else? Does it feel a little bit different, and this community that's in there, and most of the people that are in there already?
Yeah, I mean, they asked me to be a board member after the first year. So I was very excited to help out because I think originally the inception of it got a bit of pushback because gravel still feels very young to a lot of people, but there is so much of this long storied history behind it that I felt very passionately about wanting to make sure that the gravel cycling hall of fame was going to be able to showcase some of that history. And I wanted to make sure the nominations and the rules and the voting processes were always going to make sure we honored that, and not necessarily like the most popular people or the names that you think of right off the bat, but those people who had contributed a lot. So I kind of wanted to make sure for a few years that that what I felt strongly about was going to be happening with the Hall of Fame. And then Yuri actually nominated me this year, and he's been bugging me for a few years to put my name in. And I kept saying no because I needed to make sure that how I felt about the Hall of Fame was going through, and there was some more of that historical significance to it. And he kept bugging me enough this year. I finally said okay, so you can blame him.
Well, I think for the rest of us, we're super excited. I mean, not just how successful you've been on the circuit and all the big races, but for me, like, how much you've fostered the sport and introduced it and been so open and getting people into it. Like, uh you know the way when I was just starting up, and during even COVID, you were both helped me out with my videos, putting that together. Didn't have to, and but it meant a lot to me at the time, and so I know you've touched a lot of people in that way too, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it. One of my favorite things is that somewhere, I'm pretty sure on the Mammoth Tough website, I have one there that I've won Rock Cobbler 5 times because that's important to me. But it's been one of the bylines that people are using for my highlight results for this Hall of Fame thing. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it is pretty cool, but it makes me laugh. And the timing was perfect of doing this today. I was like, yeah, Rock Cobbler is one of those things where it all started.
Well, Well, let's bring in the man behind all the madness here, and Sam Ames. And hello, hello.
Hello, hello. I've never met her before in my life, just for the record. Oh no,
I made that up.
No.
Yeah. What is a rock cobbler? Does it exist? No. Well, welcome, Sam. I think that this is the start of the year. Like I always see Low Gap up there in the Bay Area, and then down here, rock cobbler just is, like a monument, I think, in the gravel world. And in many different ways than a lot of other events that people look forward to. And yeah, I'm hooked. So, wow, we're in year 12.
Yeah. Well, first, Amanda, she and I go way, way back, and I'm so excited. I got that news this morning, and so congratulations to you. Thank you for all the support that you've given the sport, and it's a lot. And so I really was super happy to hear that. And I think that's a very cool thing. And I do want to comment on your thoughts about keeping it or providing input, having it be the way that you want it to be, and paying respect to people that kind of did the grassroots thing. And yes, it is young and whatnot. So thanks for sticking to your guns and making it the way that you wanted it, or contributing to the way that you wanted to see the vision happen. So kudos, tip of the hat to Amanda.
Thanks.
So yeah, year 12. Here we go. Yeesh, the dirty dozen.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to kind of like review last year a little bit, because it seemed to be a little bit of a different animal, and there was a lot to unpack, because there's always conditions are never the same. The course is never the same. And for me, I felt like last year was a little less technical, but a little harder in terms of like a little extra. I almost felt like there was almost like one extra climb in there last year. So Mr. Sheek was just here a second ago giving us some weather reports about how, like, last year there was rain a few days before, and it may look like the same thing was coming in. So well, first tell us a little bit how you felt last year's course went.
Well, your assessment, I think, is spot on. We really were stressing about the rain, and it did stop luckily a day or two before. So things stayed pretty saturated, not unrideable, but it was heavy. It was just heavy and slow. And that first 35 miles last year was very challenging for a lot of people. And had it been dry, or like it's been recently, it's just been cold and clear. A little bit of rain last night and this morning, and then it cleared up beautifully. It would have been a lot faster. And so I think when it's slow and heavy like that, everything is just arduous, and it's just a real challenge. And that's just Mother Nature. You get dealt the hand that you get, and you do the best with it. And yeah, but we'll see what happens with the forecast. It rained quite a bit, and I was out on the bike today, and it was just like perfect soil. So it's been so dry for so long that it probably would take quite a bit more rain to really have a problem. And it's really kind of cold and crisp. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it was a demanding year last year. We've softened it a little this year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll have Amanda knows more about the event and what you're selling to us every year on how tough it is. But well, Amanda, which one do you think was the toughest one you've been through so far?
Oh, I don't remember exactly, but maybe the 2018 or 2019, maybe, like just before the COVID stuff, like when there were less people and Sam really didn't care what we all thought, and he could just screw us completely. Once he got more people, I feel like he felt a little bit more pressure to like let people finish, maybe. But in those early years, he was like, screw you guys, I don't care at all. But yeah, I think last year was that like soft slowness that really sucked it out of you. And for a lot of people that was the thing, like, 60 miles was the Pebbler, I think. And it wasn't, on paper, it didn't look like it should have hurt as bad as it did. And it just, sucked it out of you, I think, right out of the gate in that section. So yeah, I mean, depending on which way Sam decides to send us first and whether or not it rains a lot in like, I think that week, it doesn't look like it's going to rain a lot for the next 7 days, but the week of, I think, will determine the speeds and how fast people are going to end up getting through there.
Just watching Sam's face and just reading every remark.
Oh, she's a seasoned veteran. She knows exactly what she's talking about, and she's pretty spot on. I will tell you that we will be going, people that know the area a little bit, counterclockwise this year. So that always changes the dynamic. I mean, to some extent, a little bit backwards of last year. There's some, as Amanda knows, there's definitely some thoroughfares and roads and things that we have to use because they're connectors. So a few of those always get used, and then we just try to find some stuff intertwined. So the distances are pretty well done. There's a 5-mile section that's up in the air right now because of beehives, and every year we go kind of through this. We're at the mercy of some of the ranchers and got to kind of follow suit for some of that private land. So I'll know more tomorrow. I've got a meeting, but it's nothing. If we lose a little bit of distance, it's nothing catastrophic. It's just kind of orchard miles. So all the good stuff will still be there.
So counterclockwise, a lot of that stuff has like some of the single track. So are we getting some earlier single track?
No, I think we're pretty well wide open in the first 15 miles. Yeah, and then things will narrow, and then they'll open up, and then they'll narrow, and then they'll open up. So, yeah, it's a good blend. I will say, when Amanda's scoffing at me about taking it easy this year. So for those people that don't know, I broke my foot horribly in June, and I didn't walk for 6.5 months. And so barely just been walking and riding since the end of October. So yeah, it softened me a little bit this year. When we finally got out for recons, I was like, yeah, we don't need to go up that hill. Let's go around this way. So
this is not true.
Yeah,
this can't be. It's not going to soften you. You don't care how we feel out there.
I'm being honest. It's I'm really happy with the course. If the weather holds well, it's a really good flow. And I think between the difficulty of last year and then me just trying to think about how I wanted to piece things together with the new venue, because we're so far east that I think I'm real happy with what we came up with.
Now I see you're also bringing back the Boulder this year, and you had basically the one extra climb up there up Rancheria, and I didn't get to do that on the day of, but I definitely saw some of the riders who had started earlier come past me at some point, and I've done that climb before, and it's not as bad as some of the other climbs, but it's longer. Like how did people handle that last year? Was it just the fact that you added the extra for the people doing the Boulder, the extra miles and the extra climb just really exponentially got to them, or I don't know, what was the feedback?
Yeah, well, it really lengthens the day. And a handful of people have really had kind of requested to, hey, why don't we really think about doing some kind of, super challenging addition to it? And I keep it to the 50 or 60 people because it's just, more resources and more things to do. And I don't want to stray too far away from my vision of keeping things focused on the Cobbler itself. But, Pete was, first guy in, and he was over 7 hours. So it's the speed that you have to think about when you're off-road and you're doing even 100 to 105 miles in the terrain that we have. I mean, it's one thing to be, possibly in other parts of the country where things can roll along with a much higher average speed. But, most of the people that are out there doing that are, less than 13 or 14 miles an hour. And so that makes for a long day. But yeah, the addition of that climb, that out and back on Rancheria just works for our logistics. There was another road and another trail section that I really kind of wanted to introduce this year. I couldn't physically go do it and do the recon that was needed to make sure it was going to work, and check mileage and elevation. So I'm going to hold on to that one for next year. But it's not Rancheria. It's a whole new gig. So we'll see what happens. for the boulders. The Cobbler will continue to be what it is, you know, with the elements that we have. Maybe I have one new landowner he's warming up to me, so we'll see.
Okay, interesting. Time is ticking. I felt like the one section that was kind of like the northeast corner, was that completely new? Because
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry if I can't describe it to people, but I remember we kind of came down. We had a little bit of muddy single track, and then we hit a public road, but then we crossed the public road, and then I don't know if that was private lands, but I mean, I think that, like, on my video, that was the most gorgeous part of the ride back there, and wasn't too pitchy in that area. But was that a new arrangement with another, or was that public land over there?
No, all of that stuff is private. So we were able to negotiate some right away through a little bit of oil lease property. And so that connection to hit the backside of Round Mountain Road and then do some of the oil property was all new. And then a new farming or ranching section that connected us to Rancheria. So there's a couple of different roads in there that I've looked at that we'll have to see where the borders are. So we'll have one pretty good new section in there this year. And so, yeah, that was all new.
Amanda, you were talking a little bit earlier about the big change of this year, the new starting point, and you had some questions.
Yeah, so I feel like every time we've done this, I always tell people there's like warm-up miles and kind of some junk miles at the end that you can look forward to just spinning your legs out if you're not like flat out racing someone. And that seems to have disappeared the second I looked at the location of the new venue. It's like smack dab in the middle of every little fun section that you like to do with Cobbler. So are there any areas of reprieve given the new venue, and with the start and finish being much closer to some of like the really fun dirt stuff? Are you just going to sort of end things with a bang, or is there going to be an ease in and out of there?
Right. So yes, we lose the bike path. So there's not a lot of rollout in the beginning before you get to the first dirt. It's not like right out of the gate, but it's not very long. We do have to sort of climb out of the lake and then get to where we're going. And then the end, the hike-a-bike's going to probably come the latest it's ever come. And again, because we're so far east. So the distance from the top of the hike-a-bike back to the finish is not very far. And the end of it is going to pretty much feel a little bit like a cyclocross race. I think there's no like 2 miles on the road. We have some innovative ideas to get people up to the finish line rather than just coming in on the main road, which we kind of logistically have to keep that clear for traffic and people coming in and out. So we've employed some cyclocross tactics, and we'll see how it works out. I like it. So, you know, there it is. So no, not a lot of bike path, have conversation as you roll back in. It's going to be, bumpy and technical in a few spots.
Oh man. So yeah, that was going to be my biggest thing, is like, does that sort of change the hardness factor though? Because you do have some of those less, like, it always used to be, you knew that there were like 3 easy miles, 4 easy miles to the finish or whatever it was. So like once you hit that point, you're like, okay, you know, we're kind of just spin to win towards the finish. And you knew that those miles are going to tick by pretty fast. Whereas now it's almost like everybody's going to have to expect all the miles to hurt for the most part.
Yeah, there's really no more elevation. So to get back to the venue, it's not like you got to climb some ridiculous hill. So I would give the teaser that after the hike-a-bike, you're pretty well done with any elevation. Maybe one little bump, but nothing crazy. But it's, you know, there's a few trails that we use, and we've kind of used them every year, and they're pretty chewed up, and so that's always kind of fun. And then just it's very short, but that little section to get into the venue is going to be kind of fun. So Yeah, we're making the most of it. It was not by choice that we moved to the venue. It really came about because they're remodeling the Stramler Park, which is the park we've used for a few years. And anybody that puts on events knows, like, the last thing I want to do have to change and rework and redo a new venue. Just about the time you get situated, now we've got to uproot and go. But it's a great facility. It's very similar to Stramler Park. The logistics of the layout actually are better in some ways. We can park all of our equipment and vendors and people in the back. So everything in the front is all, just for participants. So the presentation of the venue, I really do kind of like. It's a long ways out there and not quite as central, but we're going to make the most of it. And we've been planning some good stuff. So it's going to look nice. It's going to be good.
Very fun.
Well, your timing representatives have said that the finish line was the toughest, and I actually do have some video of like people really biting it there at the end. People might want to comment: is the last 100 feet going to be just as grueling as it was last year?
So here's the part of I'm not going to say, but the people that work with me,
I think you just said it.
Yeah, I mean. Here's what happens is over 10, 12 years have influenced people that are in my circle of assistants, and they kind of take the bull by the horns, no pun intended, and come up with ideas like, running through Ethel's last year. None of that was pre-planned. That all happened like the morning of, and the owner was having a great time. Yeah. I mean, so the things that might happen at the finish line, I don't know, because I won't be there. So when they do kind of set that up, it's like they got carte blanche to do whatever they want to do. We'll see. That's all I can say.
I like that. I like you just let your minions decide.
Yeah. I'm telling you, there's going to be a couple of you'll see. It's going to be great.
Okay. One thing that I started putting together was a list of tips for things I've learned over the years for what to remember and to tell people. One is no frame bags, because you're going to want to try and figure out how to efficiently carry your bike up the hill. So those tend to get in the way, and I've seen people take them off on the hike-a-bike. So maybe even practice, because even in some of the cyclocross races down here where you have had to carry your bike up a hill, this is total different, because it's almost like the old Batman TV show where they're climbing up vertically on a building. So it's a little bit more difficult when you get to those angles. Also, I tell people a lot, when you do get to those long climbs, spin, don't grind. I think like some people really try and huff their way to get up some of these hills and really peter out pretty early on them. And, I've just come to the point of like, let's save those bullets for later and just walk them if I get to that point. And, really, really dial in your tire pressure going in, I think is super important. I think that was a mistake I had last year, having it a little bit too high. I liked my tires, but I just didn't believe in science. So those were a few things, but I don't know if either you have other tips that you'd like to share. I'm sure you do have some knowledge, but whether you want to make it easier or not.
For me, it's just, Amanda and I come from, OG, old school, whatever you want to call it. It's like, what's a frame bag? It's like we just think less is more sometimes when you look at rides like this. And I realized the shape of gravel riding and bikes and the gear and whatnot has really kind of changed. But yeah, I don't think people need to go crazy with frame bags and that sort of thing. Start with a really well-equipped seat bag. Make sure your bike's in good working order. Start with 2 bottles minimum. If you've got a third bike mount, maybe carry a third. Sometimes people lose a bottle. That's one of the other things that I've noticed over the years is a good quality cage that doesn't eject bottles. And hopefully people have vetted and tested that, because it's bumpy and it's technical in a lot of spots. And so I don't want people losing their hydration products and not having what they need. But I think really kind of making sure you're prepared, before you even hit the start line is really kind of key. And we work to have nice things at the aid stations, like we have pumps and tubes and tire levers and multi-tools, because somebody may have an incident, but we can't have it all. And so I always stress to people, make sure your phone's charged, make sure you've got all the stuff to fix your bike, and that you know how to do a few things. And the wooden sticks in your swag bag is for mud, Zach. Those are for mud sticks. Those aren't leftover popsicle sticks. Those are mud sticks.
Oh God, that's why it tasted so weird.
Yeah, and I just think less is more, because you're right. You got to get off, and look, the essence of the Cobbler is it's just funky. Like, we would look like, oh, let's go over there, and we end up having to walk because the trail wasn't rideable. That's how it all started. And so I encourage people, look, ride within your limits. If you need to get off, it's nice to change up the muscle group and do something a little bit different. The hike-a-bike's another story. That's an inside joke from when we used to do the cyclocross races at Hart Park, and I'd have this really stupid competition for $100 to who could get to a flag at the top of this hill. And then we incorporated it into the Cobbler, and it's just become commonplace ever since. So that one's always ridiculous. And people literally ask me that don't know the history. They're like, why do you do that to us? Like, why can't you keep us on our bike and keep going? And I always kind of tell them a little bit of the story, and they're like, oh, I never knew that. Now I get it. And I'm like, yeah, it's just because it's goofy. It's just something to do. So.
Yeah. You're like, did you also know we never called this a gravel race in the beginning?
Yeah, exactly. That's why it has a slogan, gravel ride, sort of.
Yeah.
Amanda, what tips do you have for people?
Oh, I've got a lot. You guys have said some good ones. I mean, the one thing I really like reminding people is that it's really unique to ride on this much private land, and remembering that you can hide the maps on Strava now. I know Sam doesn't make that much of a big deal about it anymore, but I try to when we do our talks about Cobbler, because I think it is so special. And a lot of people use Strava heat maps now to plan rides, and the less public data that they have for those areas, the less likely somebody will be to be riding around there and choose to go accidentally ride on private land. So if you can hide the maps, I always think it's a good thing afterwards to do that, because we are so lucky to be able to use those lands. And then another thing I like reminding people is, depending on if they have gravel shoes or if they're riding mountain bike shoes, because of the hike-a-bike and a couple sections where you do have to get off, it's good if you can put toe spikes in, even if they're the little short ones, or have something in there that if your shoes don't have a lot of grip in the toe area. I know that can be a struggle for some people. So if you can put toe spikes in, it's a pretty easy fix. You can even find regular screws that'll fit those holes you have in the mountain bike shoes. And then, yeah, as much as this ride is gravel and there are some support at aid stations, I always like to remind people to pretend as if it's completely self-supported, because you're way out there and it might take a long time for somebody to come and help you or be able to assist in any sort of way, or even pick you up if they have to. So be prepared to have as much stuff on you as you can, as if you were out there on your own, because it might not just help you, but it'll help a bunch of other people that you're riding around as well. Maybe less experienced people who might not know they need to have extra things that you've been able to acquire through the years of experience. So even if it doesn't help you, I'm sure it might help somebody else, just in case you're out there. Cobbler's the one where I've seen some of the weirdest mechanicals ever. And so I think it's a good idea to have some of those extra things in your bag that you wouldn't normally carry, because it's just, Sam sends us through the wackiest stuff. So the more that you have in your saddlebag, the better chance you have of actually finishing it.
Great points. And thank you for talking about the private land thing. And it really still is a big deal. And so far, our demographic is really good about it. We haven't only had one incident of somebody who did come from out of town and did jump a fence. And it wasn't, we handled it and it was fine. But I certainly don't want to jeopardize the working relationships that we put in for over a dozen years to get these people to let us do what we do, because it is really kind of special. So thank you for touching upon that. And the writers will get they've got a couple more emails to get, so we'll run through some of that there. But just enjoy the public land stuff, but the private stuff, let's just save it for race day.
Yeah. And
Ride
it's
day.
so unique. That's the thing I love about Cobbler. It's like, yeah, everybody talks about gravel. You're like, oh, these wide open roads that are public and no one has to get permits, and like the amount of work that you have to put in and relationships that you have to maintain to be able to use private land. I'm like, that's worth the entry fee. You get to go ride places that no one else ever will because of this event. So we got to keep it that way.
Thank you.
Now, I don't know exactly what you would bring, but I saw 2 people with broken frames last year. I don't know if that's a
What part of the frame? Down tube? Chainstay?
His whole front end was sheared off, I think, and he just carried it around the venue for hours.
Oh, I think I saw that. Yeah.
I mean, I want to say it was awesome, but it wasn't awesome that he broke his bike.
To the Cobbler.
Yeah, he was just smiling ear to ear too. I thought, man, you need to give this guy $100 or something to go to the new bike fund.
Oh yeah, and another good pro tip here: don't wrap your number plate around your head tube. I know, like, those things are super nice to have, that electronic timing, and I now have like that little mesh thing in front of my bike that makes it so easy to put on. Which, I used to do a bunch of runs and I hated pinning numbers on my shirt all the time, and I kind of feel like it's gotten a lot better in cycling. But if you're able to have like a burrito bag, you could stick it in front. That seems to be a pretty smooth move too, if you can still get inside the burrito bag.
So shouldering technique, Zach, you have, excuse my French, a shitload of stuff on your bike. Have you practiced shouldering your bike how do you do it going up that hike bike?
I end up going up sideways. Like, I will kind of like put foot over foot and then kind of like lean my hand over onto the side, because like the other thing is, I think the last couple of years it was a little muddy, and so you would, for every 6 inches you would go up, you would slide down 4. So it felt like you could kind of like displace less dirt if you were able to get really firmly in there and really plant the foot sideways. Whereas I kind of feel like going straight up is really hard, and then like I try and cubert my way up, so I kind of go diagonally a little bit so that I'm not that will cut the grade down. But like, going over those maps, like those grades are in the high 30%. And I know that, some people may be able to ride pavement at that grade if you have the right gearing, but it's a whole other animal riding these hills, trying to get up these hillsides. And I guess, wasn't last year the hike a bike, wasn't that people started going up the wrong way and then everybody just followed?
No, that was the year before.
The year before.
Yeah. So
there's no wrong way to do it as long as you get to the top.
Yeah, some people push. Like last year was there were sections where it was like pushable, that you didn't have to like completely shoulder. Whereas the year before it was kind of like a wall, a couple sections that the bike had to get like completely out of the way. So there's definitely different ways to do it. I think that's my like biggest tip to people is like practice it the day before, because that's the one thing that you're gonna not figure out in the moment and probably get it wrong because it's so awkward.
Yeah, and when I said the wrong way to do it, I meant like if you go 20 feet that way and go up, like it doesn't matter. You're going to end up at the same spot. So you can get off in the grass and do your own thing. Doesn't matter to me.
My other, I think I'm going to go back to this year, is that, and maybe it's just a me problem, but like, I've switched to BOAs the last couple of years, and I think because you get off the bike here, your feet get a little bit more wet, and then you kind of tend to tighten your shoes while you're going, and then later on in the day, your foot swells, you don't quite notice it, and then by the time it's too late to loosen them, like your feet are really cramping. So I think, if you are using the BOAs, try and not do the temptation to tighten your shoes as you are riding. And that's why I just may go to the lace, because you sometimes just feel like it's just getting a little loose in there. Outside the box.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully people have their footwear choice dialed in by now, and they'll just have to mitigate that. Don't send any more emails about which tire to run.
So,
You're
which
good.
tire?
Which tire? Oh, the IRC double Boken double cross for sure, of course. Official tire sponsor of Rock Cobbler.
Well, this year I'm just going with the big one that I have on here. I've got the 55s. I'm like, why not? I'm not so worried as much with the time, but I think that'll definitely pay off on the downhills and going faster. And same thing, I think I will finally get the correct tire pressure on this year. So that should be super helpful. But I don't know. Where have you kind of fallen, Amanda?
Oh, it depends. I mean, last year before this race, I like panic ordered mud tires, and I don't regret that at all because I think it was actually super useful. So yeah, it's just going to depend on the weather, but I have the luxury to say that. I mean, for most people, just run what you brung, you know, unless you're super worried about mud clearance and like chunking up your frame. That's a different story. You might want to panic change to something, but for the most part, I mean, that's what you're going to be most comfortable with is what's already on your bike, and that's probably where you should go. Mess around with tire pressure if you want to, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's always, you know, that I was making a joke, but the tire conversation, you know, for people that she's right. Like, just don't overthink that. I run a 38-42 setup. That's my day in and day out for the soil conditions and stuff that we have this time of year. You know, last year we had a lot of people asking, and I dated myself a little bit, and we had several of them on hand, and we sold quite a few 700 by 32s because the traction wasn't going to be an issue. It was just clearance, you know, being able to have tire clearance and being able to cut through a lot of that stuff so that your bike is staying a little bit lighter and not getting bogged down. But I hopefully we don't have a, you know, last minute ditch scenario. So ride what you're most comfortable with. The soil conditions are going to be really good. And, you know, ride within your limit. That's the other part, is making sure that, you know, you're not overcooking it when you're in an area that you've not been to before.
So as of this morning, you had some open spots left for registration. Hypothetically speaking, if someone was sitting here on the fence and let's say they're like worried because they don't think they can do it, or that they might not have enough resources, can you tell us some of like how many aid stations for the Pebbler and how many aid stations for the Cobbler that maybe might persuade somebody to like either do it or not do it based on how comfortable they are?
Yeah. So this year, the way that the route is going and the way that the elevation sort of pans out, there will be two really solid aid stations for the Pebblers, and they're spaced perfectly. Like for the distance that the Pebbler route's going to be, they won't need any more, you know, as long as people, and I always tell people, start properly, right? Start with a couple bottles, make sure you had breakfast, make sure you got a burrito, make sure you've got a couple of bars and a few gels. The first and the second aid station for them is perfect. Like, I feel very confident, and we are very well stocked this year, because last year we had some confusion on who was supposed to take what from their docking location, and some stops didn't take enough and some stops took too much. So we fixed that. There's 3 full aid stations for the Cobbler route, and same conversation. When we did the full route, we obviously do it with no aid station. So we're literally packing everything for the whole ride. And so I think people are going to be well taken care of at the correct intervals. And then there's also an additional station at the turnaround for the boulders. So technically the boulders get 4. Last year it was 5 and 4, but it just, with the mileage and the elevation, I don't think it'll be a problem. I think it's going to be just right.
Nice. That's good to know.
Yeah. Someone's just asking about the change start location, but we covered that a little bit earlier in the talk, that just the venue is closed this year. But
they ripped up that whole parking lot and repaved everything. And then the county that's a very popular venue throughout the year for beer festival things and all kinds of stuff. And so it was due for a little bit of an overhaul. And so that, just to chime in one more time, that's the reason for the venue change. But again, the new venue is, I think when people get out there, the thing that's kind of cool that makes it sort of Cobbler-esque is it's on the backside of the Kern River Golf Course and the backside of Lake Mean. We kind of have the whole place to ourselves. We can do whatever we want to do, and you don't have to worry about, it's really cool and it's beautiful. It's right along the Kern River. It's a nice spot.
Dave just texted me. He wants to know, can people pay for extra French fries at the finish?
If people want extra French fries there, we never have a shortage of French fries. They can just have as much as they want.
I'm pretty sure that's what he looks forward to.
You never run out of French fries, ever.
Now, I guess the other big thing that is always a mystery until the day of is the take-home gifts that you have.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I found they're pretty handy. I think last year I took a second shovel because it has been super helpful around here, and then the satchel. And I hate to say it, like this is I guess like a collector's item.
It is now. It is.
I don't know. Like it's really like I've got two breweries in California. They say are the tastiest, and I think Roulet is definitely was one of the two. And it's sad to see them go.
Yeah,
because I was a super big fan of theirs. But I mean, afterwards, great environment. Everybody's hanging out. There's food there, and I think that expect to spend at least a good hour telling war stories to everyone, because I think it's such a great shared experience that everyone's so excited when it's across the finish line. No one wants to go. I mean, it's just like people just want to talk about it, and everybody's view is on it. So I think I just cast a big web here for the post ride, what to expect afterwards. But now with this new venue, or is there any new surprises for the ending this year? What do you expect?
Well, that I've always said, and it will never change as long as I'm doing the Cobbler and making it happen. The ride and the route and what people come for, that's everything. Like people that work with me, my venue coordinators, my motorcycle staff, my aid station, they know that my most important thing that day is making sure that people love the route, they stay safe, they come for the ride. Like everything else is icing on the cake. But Amanda will tell you, and I think back to a lot of years when we catered at Belgian Waffle Ride, I never want the after party to not be anything less than a lot of really good food and a really good arena for people to talk and tell war stories and do all of that. Like that part is also very important to me, and I will never, ever, ever not provide the best. Like we spend a lot of money on food and a lot of money on beverage, and doing it right and making sure that people leave fat and happy, because it's a hard day on the bike, and I want them to have a really good meal and get a really cool gift and feel like the money that we take or the money that they spend with us graciously gets put back into their experience. So I spend a ton of money every year on making sure the swag bag is the best I can make it, making sure the meals are the best I can make it, and then getting the best people to make the ride the best. I mean, I'm just passionate about that. It's got to be a full experience, right? I don't want a taco truck. I want what we do, and I want homemade fries, and I want people to go, man, I want to do stuff that nobody else is doing. So that's my goal.
I hope Dave was listening.
You can get all the French fries you want, David.
All the French fries you want. But we have a really, back to your gift thing, we do have a really, every year it seems to get a little harder, because I will not buy a gift for everybody that's not useful. Amanda knows there will never be any medals. Aside from the first year we gave everybody a rock, but there will never be any medals or trophies or anything like that. Like it has to be, we've done cutting boards and hatchets and shovels, and I want people to look at their thing and be able to use it throughout the year, or cook in their apron and go, man, I got this thing, and they can continue to enjoy it. Like when I turn 90, the last thing I want to deal with is my family's kids or grandkids got to throw away a box full of medals that, but they got a shovel and they're like, I'm going to use grandpa's shovel. That'd be pretty cool. So I got a good one this year. It's very useful. It's a very good one. I'm once again proud of my gift.
Oh,
Nice.
wow. It also like it doesn't make me feel good because I'm like, I never thought of getting this, but Sam did. So what else am I missing out on life?
It's like 2 hours of walking through Harbor Freight or Orchard Supply or just Googling funky stuff on the internet. So yeah. I don't know how much longer I keep finding unique stuff. I'll have to like start back over again or something.
Yeah, like the mini skillet.
Cast iron skillet.
The one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking, like shenanigans are always a thing, and you always come up with some sort of time bonus fun. Is there going to be something like that this year that people can, play if they want to at an aid station or something?
Yeah. So in the beginning, we used to do that. We kind of would have these funny time bonus things, but they got really hard to manage. So a couple of years ago, we started doing the tire toss or what was last year, the tube toss, because the tubes are easier to store and smaller and whatnot. So we'll definitely do the tire toss again with a chance to win $100.
It was money. I thought it was time.
Oh no, money. Yeah, cold hard cash. And so what we do is people that elect to participate, if they're able to ring the post with a tube, then their name goes in the hat, and then we draw that name, and that person wins. It's not quite as it's hard to get everybody corralled for something like that back at the venue. So we promote it, and then we sort of do it. I get a hold of the winner and then try to get a photo of them post event and whatnot. So we'll do the push-up challenge, because push-ups go back to day one, and the same sort of thing. We've set it up as an election thing at an aid station. Hey, do 30 push-ups. Your name goes in the hat. We'll see if you win. So people like that, and then it keeps things moving. It doesn't really slow stuff down, but yeah, I have a few other things. One thing I'm hoping it works. I'm getting down to the wire, but we'll have our usual and maybe a little bit extra.
Okay, I'm sure Joey likes the fact that he doesn't have to do time bonuses, so that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes. With the new venue, do we still get to see the barrel racing this year on Friday?
Yes, we will be barrel racing on Friday. They've got plenty of grass there for us to do that. So, and we'll do that sort of in a raffle thing as well. We did it kind of a first, second, and third, and it was clunky and I didn't really care for it. So everybody that participates will get a time, and they can kind of talk about bragging rights, but all their names will go into a hat, and then we'll draw, $100, $50, and 25 or something like that for as at random. So they could have been the slowest time, but they still have a chance to win. So I think it's easier that way, and it makes it more participatory and involved for everybody else.
I like it. And are you still doing the regular raffle? Like I remember last year you had like number plate raffle.
Yeah, we'll do a handful of items. Well, actually not a handful, quite a bit of really good stuff from Shimano and SRAM and Enduro bearings and LEL. And I think I'm going to try to squeeze Phil for an entry or two for BWR. So it's a silent raffle. We have somebody that after the ride takes off, Joey electronically mixes the numbers, and then we tape that number to each of the prizes. And so when people finish, definitely come back to the table and see if you won something. So yeah, a lot of BMC, a lot of generous support for that. And the silent, again, is an easy way. Let people tell their war stories, let them eat their lunch, let them have their beer, and it'll be good.
I like that. I like those number plate too. Like you could, everybody was running over there. Like, is my number on this?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, that's cool. And I saw that at Crusher Tusher, which was the way that Burke had done it one year, and it kind of caught my eye. And I thought, that's smart. That's a good way, because easy to manage and then gives people something to go check, and it's like an Easter egg hunt, see if they won something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just was wondering once again. I'm not going to end up with number 13 again, am I?
I'm not saying anything. You got to talk to Joey. He's on here. He's listening. He'll make sure you know what you did. You just jinxed yourself. He's going to make sure that you get 13 now.
He's writing it down right now.
He's writing it down right now. I know him.
I'm feeling better about this year. I mean, like I've done now. This is, I guess, my fourth one. And I know it'll be hard. but I feel super comfortable with. Oh my god.
Told you.
No, I'm sure you'll find someone who's more deserving of that number by the time. There's plenty of people that are worse than me, probably, right? But no, it's just I just let go, and you do the ride, you look around, you see everyone kind of sharing, the toughness and everything else, and everybody wants everyone to get through this and to the end. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to this year. I just was more looking forward to this year than next year, because I just figure something about the number 13, is that going to come into play next year?
I don't know. Let me get through 12. Let me get through the Dirty Dozen, and one step at a time there, Zach.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the back of your head. I don't know.
I may have to let Taco Man loose on that one. That may be, that's right up his alley. May have to employ his creativity.
Well, next year I hope to have someone on here who's able to like read faces and understand like what your tells are. Maybe I can get like a poker player. So we'll get this all out.
Well, Liz, I want to tell everybody we've been blessed with just every year is a good year. And I think the people and the writers and Amanda and the ones that have just talked it up, I'm always so humbly grateful. But I do really feel like the route this year is very manageable. It's going to be hard. I wouldn't do it. I would never make it easy, but it does flow nicely. And I think it's a good blend. And I think people will really enjoy what we set up. So back what we said in the beginning, we'll see what the weather does and go from there. But we'll put on a good party for sure.
Nice. Well, everyone will have fun regardless.
Yes, we will have fun regardless. So
yes. Well, Amanda, Dave. I mean, Dave. I'm sure he's back there too. Sam.
Man.
You two are such a pair. And
me and Amanda, or Amanda and Dave?
It's
both.
Yeah. Hand in hand, I guess. Anyways, well, thanks for joining. Can't wait. We're less than 2 weeks away. I guess registration closes on Friday.
Yeah, Friday at midnight. And we have I haven't rebooted tonight, but I think we got over 20 entries just today. So yeah, there's still some spots left. If you're on the fence, just come do it. Ride your pace, take your time, enjoy the ride. It's not a race. Challenge yourself and come ride bikes, come play bikes with us.
Oh, and good. Boom. We just had somebody who just came in. So
nice.
I guess the location change. All right. Thanks very much. And we'll see you in a few days.
Thank you guys very much. And Amanda, again, congratulations on all fronts.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, guys. See you soon.
Everyone.